The one thing I wanted to start off with is there's been some wild stuff happening in Australia today. Some pretty crazy stuff. They've been having some pretty serious rallies out there about immigration and things like that. And I wanted to like kind of see what some of these things look like. 500,000 Australians hit the streets in 6 major cities demanding an end to mass immigration. Yo. I've seen some stuff like this popping up in England as well, but I didn't expect to see that in Australia. It's, yeah, some big protests out there. Thousands of Australians raised a flag. Yeah, that's definitely not a small number of people. There's also been some videos around of like, let's see what this...
We absolutely condemn the March for Australia rally that's going on today. It is not about increasing social harmony. We think, and I think the vast majority of the Australians think that multiculturalism has been a good thing for our country. We don't support rallies like this that are about spreading hate and that are about dividing our community. I sincerely hope that there's no trouble that arises from these events today. But the fact that this is being organised and promoted by neo-Nazi groups tells us everything we need to know about...
Wait, it's been promoted by neo-Nazi groups? What? I'd have to look into that. Usually, the one thing I've come to find most of the time is that if there's some like really extreme headline about something, it's more often than not a lie or just like a fabrication. Because life is very nuanced. And, oh, what's up? Unsubscribed podcast. What's up, man? Damn, didn't expect to see you guys here. How's it going? Yeah, I mean, it's cleaner. It's cleanish. It's kind of basic, though, I guess. I probably need more sound panels. I still have a lot of echo in here, unfortunately. But yeah, there's, let's see. It was a nationwide outage for Verizon. Yeah, I'll have to check it out. You think our Aussie brothers and sisters would have learned to herd the emus by now? They are bush people. You know, I heard emu eggs or emu oil is like really popular. Apparently, it's like really expensive. Apparently something like medicinal about it. I'm not sure, but yeah, it looks like based on what all these videos are saying, they're talking about ending mass immigration. I haven't seen anything about neo-Nazi stuff, but like I was saying, I think the problem is that there's going to be bad people that infiltrate every organization and every movement because there's always going to be people that are like trying. I guess you could call them agent provocateurs if you wanted. You know, people that are just trying to like take away from the validity of what that thing, whatever it may be about, you know, whether it be a protest for this or for that. And so there's going to be bad actors that either are paid to be there to disrupt it, to make it look like the whole thing is illegitimate. And then there's also times where there's people that support something that may be positive in nature, but because that specific organization is bad or known for being extremist, or they're known for promoting hate and things like that, then what that does is it kind of like it's not that it puts a stain on the movement. It just kind of like then people start associating that movement with that extreme group, even if that extreme group isn't the ones that are directly starting this thing and running the whole program. So there's a lot of... They don't want endless arrivals. They don't want their towns overrun. They don't want globalist open border chaos. Yeah, it looks like there was a lot. I wonder... let's see here. Let's check... Us. Jeez, I can't spell. Let's see what people were saying. As it happened, violent clashes as thousands rally and anti-community leaders see weaken and stir memories. Describe fear, hurt, and disappointment sparked by the anti-immigration rallies. Let's see if we can find somebody that's like relatively. Arrest. Our country's bursting at the seams. Oh, we'll look at some random country. The Australian government has condemned campaigns taking place across various cities against the increasing migration of Indians. I don't think it's just Indians. I think they're talking about everybody. Let's, maybe there's something. What is it? Yeah, that's the first thing that pops up. It says neo-Nazis and politicians among protesters. I wonder, I don't know why is racism coming into this thing? Maybe maybe there are some bad people involved. I don't know. It just, anytime I hear people throw around the word racist or racism, I almost like think that it's like, hey, this is a real quick way to take away from this or blanket stamp this organization as being a bad organization. I'm always like skeptical of that. Anti-immigration protests in Australia condemned as divisive and extremist. Every one of these mainstream media. Okay, wait, here we go. Reuters is usually pretty balanced for the most part. Usually. Let's see. Anti-immigration rallies, in Australian state capitals, regional centers, organizers demand end to mass migration. Let's see. Saying they sought to spread hate and were linked to neo-Nazis. That's what the center-left government was saying as they were condemning it. Yeah, so that's correct. I mean, they're saying what the people were saying. This group also says it's concerned about culture, wages, traffic, housing, water supply, environmental destruction, infrastructure, hospitals, crime, and loss of community. And that's all fair. That's fair stuff to be concerned about, Yeah, but the government did say we absolutely condemn the March for Australia rally that's going on today. Yeah, the guy that was just being interviewed. Some 5,000 to 8,000 people, many draped in Australian flags, had assembled for the Sydney rally, according to the Australian Broadcasting Corp. It was held near the course of the Sydney Marathon, where 35,000 runners pounded the streets on Sunday. Okay, so there was a marathon going on at the same time while this thing was happening. Interesting. I didn't realize that. Let's see. If anyone wants more evidence that the Australian flag is a symbol of racism, genocide, here you go. Protesting on stolen land. That's so weird. Conquered, not stolen. When they first arrived, the land was underdeveloped. Well, Australians built it. I don't know about white Australians. I would just say Australians. You probably didn't need to include that. That's I think it's just Australians because there's a lot of people. I mean, Australia was a prison colony, right? Let's see. You see these protests every few weeks in different countries, Germany, Britain, etc. Still waiting for those protests to turn into actual election results. Germany just elected a pro-immigration chancellor. Canada did the same, and Britain. U.S. and Italy have the only right-leaning governments in NATO that I know of. Yeah. I think you're right. I don't know many other governments that are right-leaning in nature other than the U.S. and Italy. I know that the U.S. Government and the Italian government have been seeing eye to eye on certain things. Yeah, looks like there's a lot of people. I don't see any like racist symbols or anything. I just see like a bunch of Australian flags and people draped on Australian flags. Although I don't know what they've been saying. Like, I mean, there may be a mixture of different things in there, I'm sure, somewhere around. Australians say no to mass migration. Reignite democracy. Oh, that's copyright stuff right there. We marched peacefully and were nearly at Parliament. So proud of my country and fellow Australians today. The sea of flags looks beautiful. We all want a safe and prosperous Australia for all Australians. Well, that's fair. Yeah, that's a pretty balanced take. You know, I do know that the, my brother went over there for school for a little while. Earlier, I would say, I can't remember how long ago. It might have been like I don't know, maybe 10 years ago. Maybe it's a while ago, I guess. But when he was there, he said that the cost of living was very high, but the wages were also comparatively high because the government kind of offset it with having like artificially inflated wages to compensate for the high cost of living. I have one friend that I have talked to in any regular basis recently that lives there, who's an American citizen, owns a barbecue business out there. But I don't know what his opinion or if he saw any of this stuff. It sounds like this was mostly in Sydney. I don't see any weird flags. I just see all Australian flags. Oh, clashes break up. Oh, okay. So yeah, people started fighting, and there was probably some people that were trying to cause problems, disrupt something that was probably, I think, probably in the more majority peaceful for the most part. I don't know, something weird with it. Yeah, that doesn't sound good. That's not like a really, probably should have picked a better name than that. Probably should have picked a better name than that, dude. Sorry. I guess I don't know. I don't know what white Australia is. It must be, I'm guessing it's like a white nationalist movement. I don't know. That's by the name. It's like you could pretty much infer that, but he was making a speech at the March for Australia rally in Melbourne. I don't know. I guess they were marching there too, but I don't know. Again, this guy right here may not be somebody that everybody that was marching today relates to or agrees with or wants him to be. Should have picked an Aboriginal. Yeah, I think that would have probably. I think an Aborigines, anybody that was an Aboriginal or Aborigines would have been a good ambassador probably. I think that based on what I've seen, for the most part, it was relatively peaceful. There was a lot of police out. There were some clashes because obviously when you have lots of different people out there enforcing, you got big groups of people like this, you're gonna have some bad actors that slip in there to do stuff, But there's a whole lot of different flags. I don't know. Don't know who. Oh, that was last week. Okay, so this is this week. A few dozen. Interesting. Tens of thousands of Australians hit the streets in the biggest immigration protest. Yeah. Yeah, problem is there's a lot, like I said, the most extreme people on either side of whatever spectrum you look at from politics, are the people that get the most attention because they're the ones that do and say the most outlandish stuff that gets the most clicks and engagement. And so typically what happens is you have somebody on whatever side say some crazy stuff, and then everybody on the other side labels the entirety of the opposite side as being like that. So just for example, on the left and the right, the left has the far left, the right has the far right. All the furthest out on both sides says something crazy, and then everybody on this side thinks because of the thing this person said that everyone over here is nuts. And then whatever this person said that's way over here, this person thinks is crazy, and so they think that all of these people are like that. So it's just it's not really unfortunately, it's not really a good way to communicate. And I think the best way to communicate is just actually people talking things out, but when people don't feel like they're heard or they don't feel like anyone's listening, they do this. They do big protests because they want to voice their opinion because they feel like their government's not listening, or they feel like, the people that are supposed to be representing them are not listening. And they don't the same type of constitution over here in or over there in Australia that we have in America. So, I don't know if they have, if this is something that's part of their constitution, if they're like, if they have the freedom of expression, right to free speech, or if they have the freedom to assemble like we do. I don't really know. I don't know much about how like the founding documents of Australia, but counselor, libertarian. All right, right on. She must be, maybe she's an elected official of some kind, but yeah, yeah, like I said, the real problem is that like the extremes on both sides end up getting the most attention, really, bottom line, and so it ends up like whatever opposite side there is, blanket statements, right? Because then it's just easy to do that if they're just like, you know, if they're saying something that's wild. Syrian Girl's a really interesting account. I've always been confused at like what her angle is. Let's see, tens of thousands protested in Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, Perth, Adelaide, Canberra, Darwin, Townsville, and Cairns. And this particular video is from Brisbane. Yeah, there's oh wow. Riot police. Okay, so those are what's it called? Less than lethal. You can tell by the bright colors. I think that's a pretty standard thing nowadays from what I see, or from what I've seen, is that, you know, less than lethal munitions and weapons are all brightly colored so that people know that it's not you know, actual bullets. So, at least from what I've seen. Oh, that's got we're awesome Aussies. Don't mess with them, you Nazi scum. Okay, so yeah, it looks to me like there were probably some, you know, supremacists that had like gotten involved in it or something like that, and maybe that was like maybe that's the problem. Maybe that's why people were saying blanket statements about the entire thing. That would be my guess, is that some white supremacists or Nazis or something like that like got somehow involved, and then the other side was like, oh, these guys way over here are bad people, so they must all be bad people, right? Like I was saying, you know, you get some bad people in there, and then everybody gets blanket statements. Thomas Sowell's full speech. Yeah, Thomas Sowell's the guy that they were talking about. That's such a weird, I don't know. I don't think, that just doesn't make sense to me. Like, white nation, I mean, I don't know. I think that the Aborigines were there first, and then, you know, the prison colony was founded after that. I understand getting like your immigration under control, and I think that's an important thing because, like, you know, you can't just let flood your economy with tons of undocumented immigrants and stuff like that. But I would say that this like white nation stuff, I don't think that's a good idea. And I think the majority of people that were there were probably not interested in that either. They were probably there because they're genuinely concerned about their country, and probably genuinely concerned about the massive amount of immigration that's happening there. If I had to guess, I would say that it's probably, it's got to be a small number that were like any type of extremist, you know. Script reading is not communication. What does immigration do to the economy? Good question. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it depends on so much pride. I was wondering, it's everywhere. If I knew how to look OG the best. Yeah, I don't know. Not political, but economically. I don't know. I mean, obviously, like there are so many. There's only so many jobs in an area, right? And the folks that have lived there for a long time, you know, maybe I don't know how hard it is for you to find jobs in Australia right now, but typically what happens is immigrants oftentimes take the lower paying jobs more often than not because they're willing to get whatever type of job to support their family when they first get there, and then they work their way up, right? I mean, we're a nation of immigrants. You know, the Australia is a nation of immigrants at this point. You know, a lot of these countries are, you know, people didn't just start off there. They, you know, immigrated there from other places. And, you know, also, I mean, Australia's got a lot more land than England, though. I'm surprised that England, honestly, is not having bigger protests for this kind of stuff, because England is a very small place. I mean, it's a very small island, all things considered, compared to Australia, which has, like, Australia has a lot more land and a lot of territory where there's nobody living. It's like all concentrated around the coasts, around the cities and stuff like that. And I don't know how crowded it is, but let's see. 15 million Australians want to lower migration based on recent polling. Tomorrow, approximately 100 neo-Nazi cult extremists will try to take over a nationwide march for Australia. The mainstream media and all political establishments will then use the actions of... Okay, so this is what I was talking about. So because there was some neo-Nazis out there, the political establishment, mainstream media, then use the actions of those 100 people or however many to smear and tar the 15 million Australians who want to lower migration. Why would the neo-Nazis do this? They know that they're toxic and they know that people hate them. They know that they will destroy the rallies by latching onto them, but that is precisely the point. They are accelerationists. The Nazis want the government and the mainstream press to smear all 15 million Australians who want lower migration as Nazis. They want the mainstream to present calls to lower migration as a Nazi position. They hope to then be able to position themselves as the only ones speaking for 15 million Australians. This is the worst case scenario for the long-term health of Australian democracy. The Labour government and mainstream media should not attempt to smear 15 million Australians with the same brush as the fringe Nazi extremists. But this would only drive people to extremists in the long term, which is exactly what the Nazis plan. Oh, okay. Well, I guess I could do what the center left did in Denmark, put migration on the national political agenda and lower the number of people coming into the country. If you do this, you will rob the extremists of their power. That is the only way to forward. Yeah, I mean, if 15 million Australians want to reduce the amount of migration that's happening, you know, they should vote on it. I feel like that would be the right way to do it. But definitely, yeah, I mean, you do exactly what these guys, I'm trying to warn. Okay. Millions of people feel unrepresented by the current status quo. If you give them moderate, normal political outlet, you create a powder keg. The National Socialist Network ruined the speeches at the Adelaide March. Confronted them and said they don't speak for all Australians. They then called me a traitor. Okay, so I see what's going on. So, yeah, so basically what this looks like to me is that the protests were all organized by just average people, not just white Australians. I like that. Okay. See, I like that too. I like that. So I think that the majority of the people that were protesting, Kakashi, what's up, dude? Appreciate the sub, man. Thanks for coming back. I think what happened was there was a massive protest across the entire nation organized by a bunch of people that genuinely just want to reduce immigration. Not because of race, creed, color, nationality, none of that stuff, but because of how it's impacting the economy and how it's impacting negatively local Australians that live there, people that have been there for decades, right? And that's fair. Like, that's totally fair. But I think what that guy was saying is that, this fringe group, this white nationalist group, whatever, was trying to hijack it because they knew the government would then smear all of the people that were protesting as white nationalists as a whole, instead of the fact that there's just a small percentage of people there. And then they think that that would then drive other people to join their organization, maybe. And I could see that being a tactic that they could use potentially. So, because I highly doubt at this day and age, we're in 2025, I think your average person, most people, based on my interactions with most human beings in society and in life, don't care. They don't care what you look like, where you're from, or, any of that stuff. Like, if it's actually, genuinely, most people really just care about how the economy is impacting their family directly, how they're, like, if they're able to afford rent, their mortgage, pay their bills, buy enough food to feed their family. Like, most people are just worried about their family. They're not worried about all this other stuff. And I don't think most people care about all that, as long as it's like at a point where it's controllable and where it's not having a negative impact on the job market and the future for their children and all this stuff. I think that's probably more of a balanced look. Government links protests and neo-Nazis. Yeah, everything I've seen is linking to that stuff because that's what got the most news, because those are the people that were the most crazy. The Great Replacement Theory and the idea that Australians of European descent are more entitled to be here than others were on full display at the March for Australia. Okay, so that's again, I think that's probably a small minority, more than likely, but they're definitely there. They were there for sure. That's no joke. Yeah. Infiltrated the rallies for lower migration in Sydney and Melbourne. Police escorted them to the front of the stage, and people who opposed them got assaulted. Oh, wow. Mainstream press and mainstream politicians will call all 15 million who want, call them all Nazis, which is exactly what the Nazis want. They want the purge of all moderates so they can dominate an issue that 15 million Australians care about. Oh, it looks like it's all... Anyway. 2 days till VJ Day. Good point, Danny. Texas Hold'em, JD. Maybe more censorship in England. There's definitely a lot of that happening out there for sure. Let's see. What's going on with this? Dude, there's so much crazy stuff happening. Okay. Yeah, maybe a little bit much. Yeah.